Hi everyone, welcome back to part 2 of the Weeping City of Mhach. This guide will cover the last 2 bosses in this raid instance. If you're looking for part 1, click here. These bosses seem to hit like Mhach trucks, and at most you'll feel like giving up after the 18th wipe, but it's time to put away those tissue boxes. My name is Mhach, and I'll be your raid guide. Let's take a quick look at this mini trash boss before the 3rd boss. When void fire spawns on either side, 2 groups should split off to destroy it before the sections are separated. Destroy the void fire and the next ad that spawns before returning to the boss. When the boss begins to cast Flaring Epigraph, the 3 small platforms will light up. Have 3 people stand in each one to create a shielded area on the middle platform. Stand in this shield area to avoid death. Repeat this until the mini-boss is down. The 3rd boss is Ozma. Ozma is fought on a narrow circular platform. All players must take care not to fall off or they will die. Ozma begins in sphere form, where he takes increased damage. I recommend saving damage cooldowns for the sphere forms. Players affected by this large purple marker and AoE indicator should move away from others, including other marked players. Once that marker disappears, the player will need to move away from the next impact marker. These indicators will drop down a singularity fragment ad in that location. Should 2 ads drop down too close to one another, they will explode, doing high damage and affecting all players with damage down debuffs. Tanks will pick up the ads closest to them, and the raid will destroy them as soon as possible. As the fight progresses, more and more people will be targeted for these meteor markers, so be ready to spread and drop them around the platform appropriately. Eventually, Ozma will change form. If he is changing into triangle form, players will need to move off the rectangle sections of each platform. Ozma will blast this area for high damage and debuff any player remaining in that section. After the blast, players can return to the platform and continue damaging him. In triangle form, Ozma's evasion is increased. During this phase, Ozma will throw out bleeds on random players that will splash onto others nearby. To reduce the amount of healing required, have players slightly spread, and healers should be ready to dispel the bleeds as soon as possible. He will also target random players with the debuff Acceleration Bomb that will damage players if they move or do anything during the end of its duration. Once this debuff reaches 3 seconds and the dice countdown begins to happen over their head, affected players need to stop moving until the debuff disappears, or else they will suffer high damage or even death. If Ozma turns into his cube form, players must first stack in as close as possible. His initial blast will hit and debuff anyone in the circular section of the platform. After this blast, the tank of each group will be targeted by this high-powered laser. To avoid cleaving the entire group, have them stand to one side of the platform while the rest of the group is on the other side. In this form, Ozma takes reduced damage. During this time, orbs will also spawn around the circular section of the platform and begin to move in a clockwise direction. Tanks should intercept these as they come, allowing healers the time to heal through each blast. These deal immense damage, so be ready with cooldowns. Remember that you're still getting blasted in the face by a laser, so it's best to let the balls hit you naturally instead of running too quickly into high damage. During this form, Ozma will cast Holy, which deals damage and has a slight knockback. Be careful to position yourself in such a way that you do not get knocked off the platform. When Ozma casts Black Hole, all players will be sucked into the next phase. Each alliance will be separated and will have to deal with mini versions of Atomos. At least one person will need to stand on each colored platform to unlock the Atomos for the next group. Everyone else will focus on destroying each Atomos and ads that spawn. Once your Atomos is down, you can jump down to fight Ozma Shade. Remember to leave a player on the colored pad if necessary. In this phase, when Ozma Shade casts Assimilation, players should turn their characters away. If you are hit by Assimilation, you'll have to stay turned away from Ozma Shade until your stack's clear. Facing Ozma Shade with Assimilation will gradually increase your stack, eventually trapping you into a jail that will need to be destroyed by everyone else. Players will also be marked by the same purple meteor markers. Spread these away from each other as necessary. This phase has an enrage timer, and Ozma Shade needs to be destroyed in this phase for players to exit this realm before the Doomsday timer finishes, or you will die. Once the Shade is destroyed, you will return back to the original platform where you continue your onslaught. At this point, you've seen every mechanic that will be thrown at you. However, these mechanics will happen with increased difficulty. As such, it is absolutely imperative that every single player is mindful of what mechanics are being thrown at them to reduce unnecessary damage. More meteor ads will drop down that need to be spaced around the platform appropriately. Tanks may also have to deal with ads while taking laser blasts and balls. The ray damage near the end of the fight can be insane, so healers be ready. All other players need to remember to handle each mechanic properly immediately and reduce excess damage. I cannot stress that enough. The fight will repeat until Ozma is destroyed. The last boss is Astari. Throughout the encounter, Astari will morph her hair into a giant blade on a specific side. This side will do a massive AoE with a very short cast time that will place an incredibly spicy bleed and do high damage on anyone caught on that side. To avoid this easily, players should stand on the opposite side of the hair blade or directly behind the boss throughout the encounter to easily and quickly dodge haircut to the correct side. Players also need to watch out for her cleave during this time. When the boss casts Extension, a few areas of the platform will form this purple AoE trap. Avoid this at all cost. Any player that triggers the trap will spawn a large hair trap that will suck in players in proximity. If a player is caught in the trap, it will begin to cast Garrote, ultimately killing anyone inside. Destroy the hair trap before this cast goes off to free the players inside. Better yet, all players should avoid this trap completely. If it spawns without anyone trapped inside, it will disappear on its own and can be ignored. When Astari begins drawing power from her jewel, a number of bijous will spawn around the room and begin to cast Recharge. Each cast that is allowed to go off will increase the boss's damage at the end of this phase. Destroy all of these as quickly as possible. During this time, players marked with this orange marker will be chased by an AoE blast from time to time, similar to that in World of Darkness. If you're marked up, run away from the group to avoid blasting others. Once all bijous have been destroyed or completed their cast, the boss will cast Dancing Mad, doing more damage the more bijou casts went off. At this point, Extension can also spawn living locks or flowers in different patterns. After a short time, these flowers will cast an AoE attack based on their form. Axe flowers will cast a mid-range ring AoE, while bulb flowers will smash down around them. Vine flowers will do long line AoEs across the arena directly in front of them. Getting hit by any of these attacks will place a vulnerability stack on you. The more you get hit, the higher your stack. You'll see these flowers in a few orientations. The first will be a mix of axe and bulb flowers. Run to an axe flower and stand on its stalk to avoid the attacks. The second possible orientation is a flower pattern of bulb flowers only. You'll notice a few flowers in the center of the room and 4 on the outer edges of the arena, with empty areas in between them. During this pattern, the boss will run to the center and begin to cast Penetration. This ability will either suck in players that are looking at the boss towards the center, or push away players that are not looking at the boss towards the edge. To handle this, players should turn from Penetration and position their characters in such a way to be pushed into the safe areas to avoid the bulb flowers when they slam down. The next possible pattern consists of vine flowers spawning around the outer edge of the room. To avoid the line AoEs of each one, it's easiest to run to the outer edge and stand next to one of them. The blast is fairly wide, so be careful not to stand too close. When the boss casts Depth Charge and kneels down in a random direction, make sure to avoid the area that she's in. This attack is immediately followed by Haircut, so be mindful of what side the hair blade is on so you don't find yourself in the wrong area after the charge. All of these mechanics will repeat until the boss is down. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.